Hey, John. Jonathan, sorry.
Hey, what's up, dude? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. Cool. You could call me John. All that I ask is that in anything that's like published or written, you use Jonathan. But I mean, when we're talking and we're buddies, you can just call me John.
Sweet. Yeah, I was wanting to check with Courtney about that because I seen in the little bit of information. I didn't want to like piss you off or anything. So
there's just got to. I mean, you'd have a pretty hard time pissing me off. But there's just got to be consistency with how my name appears, like across the internet, right? But I mean, everybody I know, like it's weird when our security guard here is like the best guy ever. His name's Aurelio, and he's been the security guard here for like the 4 years that we've come back here. And like my son will run up to him with Lego and they'll just play Lego for 2 hours, right?
Yeah.
But he doesn't speak any English.
Okay.
And so, I speak broken Spanish, but every time I come home, he's like, Senor Jonathan.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't know, man. Senor Jonathan just sounds kind of weird.
Got a ring to it, yeah.
Not just Senor Jonathan.
Yeah. What part of Mexico are you in, Jonathan?
Sayulita. So it's if you go to Puerto Vallarta on the Pacific coast.
Okay.
It's about 45 minutes north of there.
Okay.
Just on the water.
I've been in Mexico once, 3 years ago, I think it was. We sort of stayed around the Yucatan Peninsula and drove around and explored there. So
yeah, you were on the other side of the country. I mean, there's not a lot of people from Europe where I am, because why would you come to this side of the country? Like, it's such a long trip already for you guys.
Yeah.
If you're going to cross the ocean, like, why would you also cross Mexico?
I know, it's such a big country too.
It's massive.
Yeah,
it's massive. Flying us, well, and it's kind of an annoying country to travel in, because basically the way that it works is everything flows through Mexico City. So if I'm like here and I want to go here, I basically have to go to the middle first and then back out. And it's just really annoying. If you've ever been to Australia, to Melbourne, like that's the way that their train system works too.
Same way.
You got to go like half an hour out of your way, no matter where you're going.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. Really appreciate it. Whenever I saw the opportunity come up, I thought I'm going to chance my arm and just see what happens. Yeah, it's cool.
It's cool to get a chance to talk to you, dude.
Yeah, I've followed your work for. I've at the gym here. I've been training for 5 years, so I'm going to say over 5 years I've been following your work and following it closely. I've got like 5 of your 11 publications, your 11 books and things.
Well, you probably have the good ones.
Yeah, I'm working my way up there, getting there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did the level 1 online trainer academy course, which was great. After support and all that is great as well. And I can safely say I wouldn't be in this game this long without yourself and your work,
that's cool.
your body of work. So in that time, it's been able to fund. I've got married, had a child, obviously set up the gym and all that, honeymoon, all those things. So it's kind of covered a lot of expenses in those 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's been a bit of a whirlwind. I had to fall forward an awful lot more, I think, without your work on the PDTC website. Certainly a lot of great stuff there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really cool to hear. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, for people who are going to be listening to this, if you're not sure who Jonathan Goodman is, since 2011, you've been busy, John. You've published 11 books. Is that correct? Over 20 million.
I don't even know.
You don't even know anymore.
It's hard to know. Well, you know what it is. I say 11 good ones. There's been a few others, I think, along the way, but we don't talk about those. I've taken a lot of shots, right? Some of them have gone in. Some of them have hit off the post. Some of them flailed wildly to the side and went into the stands.
You got to take them though, right? I mean,
right.
You've had over 20 million visitors to your website, which I'm not really surprised by that because it is the go-to resource. There's so much on there, so much good stuff, and over 250,000 educational items to health and fitness enthusiasts, which is a crazy body of work.
Yeah,
you're not that old yet.
Depends who you ask.
Yeah.
It's funny, right? I mean, I'm 36 years old, so no, I'm not that old. But I mean, I started doing this when I was 24, right? I wrote my first book when I was 24. And so I thought that when I was 35, I'd have life figured out. And now I'm 36 and I feel like I'm basically just starting, I have this renewed energy. It's super fun. And so, yeah, I mean, it's funny when you're young, you have no concept of what people even a little bit older have. Like, it's always funny to me when like a 22-year-old personal trainer starts to talk to somebody who has a family about like time management and how they need to fit in things into their day. And it's like, you don't know shit. Like, all that I want to say to them is just look them straight in the eye and be like, you don't know shit about fuck. Like, straight up, like, you just know nothing about life, right? And you can't even comprehend what you don't know. And I did it. I mean, we all did it. Like, I'd be holding my clients in contempt for showing up 7 minutes late to their 4:30 p.m. session on Thursday.
Yeah.
Because he's the chief of psychiatry and has 3 kids, and I don't know, maybe something happened in the psych ward that needed his attention, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, how could he not show up on time for his workout? Like, I knew nothing about life. And so it's funny, I've learned a lot for sure in the last couple of years. Like you, like becoming a father, you don't even understand what life is like when you're a father. Before
you thought you were busy before, and then you get married or you have a kid, and just all of a sudden your time's like squeezed so much.
Makes you so much better at everything.
More efficient, hopefully, and more focused. We don't have a lot of time, John. John, I've organized 30 minutes. I didn't want to I know you're a busy man and don't want to waste your time and don't want to take up too much of it, but I thought we'd get straight into it. There's a couple of questions, and you are the man to ask about it, basically, because you have a good grasp. We've worked with lots of top trainers all over the world. What do you think of the current personal training qualifications in the world? I know what it's kind of like in the UK and Ireland. I have a pretty good grasp of it. And worldwide, what is your overall opinion of it?
It's very different worldwide, is the thing. And I won't get into it too deep because it doesn't really affect too many people too much. But the main difference is this. In the UK, you effectively have one central body, and then they allow anybody who's entrepreneurial to teach and deliver that program. That creates a free market economy that selects for quality. The difference between that and the United States and Canada is that in the United States and Canada, there is effectively 3 in the US, really only 1, kind of a second one in Canada, that everybody basically has to take. And you just can't really compete with them. They're backed by multiple stages, by either one or multiple stages of private equity or venture capital. They've just got so much money and they're so ingrained, right? Their network effects are so large that it's really hard to bump them off. And so they just don't give a shit, man. Yeah. It's so bad. It's so outdated, and they are responsible. We call it the big fitness institution, right? Like they're responsible to their investors. All that matters to them is that they make more money for their investors.
Yeah.
They don't actually teach trainers what they need to know to be successful in the field. What they do is they figure out ways to get trainers to give them as much money as possible.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's a little bit different. I won't say that it's entirely different, but it's a little bit different because there's much more of a free market economy, meaning that, somebody good can come along and teach and actually make a difference in people's lives and make a dent, right? And so I do not think that the qualifications accurately prepare people for a career in fitness. I also think that what it means to be prepared for a career in fitness is radically changing. I thought it was changing in 2012 when I started encouraging people to look into online.
Yeah.
Right. I was the first person to teach that in 2012 and just be like, yo, you gotta do something with this online fitness thing. It doesn't have to be your full-time thing, but you gotta do something with it. And I think it's radically changing now. And here's what I believe is going to happen. And I'm going to put out a lot more work on this. I'm going to put out some white papers and stuff on this in the next year or two. Artificial intelligence and augmented intelligence is going to radically redefine the role of the personal trainer in the gym. Rote learning, memorization, even figuring out what workout to give to a client, that's information. Those are tasks that are already better done by computers than humans. And I will say this with every ounce of confidence, a computer algorithm can build a better workout than about 98% of personal trainers right now for every single client.
Yeah.
The value of a trainer has never been greater though, but there's a redefinition of the role, and there's there's got to be a re-education of the people in our field, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. I mean, sure, you've got to have a baseline understanding of human anatomy and physiology, fine, biomechanics, but that stuff, to be honest, kind of doesn't matter. What a trainer's got to be is a remarkable coach. They need to really understand how to listen. They've got to be unbelievably empathetic. They've got to be patient. They've got to be motivating, inspirational. And those are the skill sets they have to build. Even how you write as a coach is really, really important. Back in the day when I started in online fitness, writing long sales letters and sales copy was really, really valuable. Well, now what's really valuable for a coach? Writing has never been more valuable than it is today for a coach. But you don't need to know how to write sales copy. You need to know how to do what I call power writing. You need to be dangerously good at writing status updates, at writing text messages, basically asynchronous forms of communication, right? Emails to clients. You need to be dangerously good at that kind of thing. And that's a totally different skill set, right? And then the other part of it is understanding how to leverage new technologies. It's not about online training. It's about leveraging new technologies to be able to be there for your clients when they need you, how they need you, and not getting beaten down by the system because you don't know how to work a computer, basically.
Yeah, definitely. Because whenever I did my qualifications, like the stuff you hit the nail on the head, anatomy, physiology, to go into details about the heart and about ventricle, all these things. And your day to day, whenever you're dealing with clients, I can guarantee that's never come up. It's all helpful to know it. It's helpful to know it, but you're not thinking about that every week. You're not thinking about that every client. You have in the back of your head, obviously, like it's nice to know and all the rest of it, but you don't need it in your day to day. Whereas if you were taught things like how to use scheduling software, what scheduling software is out there. I mean, your company's really good at. It's one of the simple things, but it's something I noticed is that you're always keeping on top of new little apps, things that are going to helpful for scheduling or for just productivity. Right. Things that you thought, it'd be a good idea if somebody invented this app, but you never knew the name of it or what to search for or things like that. But I think you guys
how to identify where to fit it in.
Yeah, you guys are really good at keeping us aware of what is out there and what way we can use it. I think that's great. But yeah, you kind of skipped ahead about one of my later questions was what does the future look like? And you've said about it, VR, augmented reality.
I think that's a lot of the future. I think where we're moving with a lot of the stuff is there's going to be, we're moving into a world where there's a centralization of resources. Like, it's interesting, right? A decentralization starts to, but basically what's happened is there's been a massive decentralization and disruption, right? Of information, of services, even of product, but predominantly of services. And that's really interesting when that happens, because that creates a long tail effect where basically a couple people win out massive. There's very few companies in the middle, right? And then there's an almost infinite amount of people who can carve out their own tiny little niche. And tiny little niche could be like $1 million a year.
Yeah.
Right. Like it's very meaningful for an individual. Yeah. But there's going to be fewer and fewer 10 and 50 and $100 million companies.
Yeah.
There's going to be a few $1 billion plus companies, right? And then there's going to be an almost infinite amount of $100,000 to $1 million companies. And what's particularly interesting is that I think there's going to be a big centralization of knowledge and expertise. Every single client can learn from one trainer now, right? In terms of the actual program, this happened on a smaller scale in gyms before, where a lot of the smarter gyms would basically bring one really smart person who is academic and have them build the programming for all of the clients.
Yeah.
And then they get, because if you think about like what makes a really great fitness professional, it's basically not a single human, right?
Yeah.
You need somebody who's, you know, empathetic, motivational, inspirational, probably looks good, and is good at marketing, entrepreneurial, good at science, and loves the research,
Yeah.
right? That's kind of not a single human.
Yeah.
And very few. And so a lot of the smart gyms have kind of recognized that, right? They're like, okay, well, like we have this guy who's really, really good at science and programming, but like kind of a dork and probably shouldn't be around other humans, right? And so we're just going to stick him in a back room.
Yeah.
And he's just gonna, I mean, I'm joking, but like, this is not that stupid if you think about it. Like, I'm gonna kind of like stick him in a back room, right? He's gonna get all of the data and he's gonna churn it out and he's gonna build amazing programming for our various groups, small group, and even individual clients. And then we have people on the gym floor who know enough to tell you to keep your back straight, right? They're gifted communicators. They're inspirational people in how they look and how they sound. They've got energy for days, but like they're kind of maybe not that book smart.
Yeah.
Or just they just don't have an affinity for it. Like it's just not like what they like to do, which is totally fine. Right? Yeah. Okay, well, why don't we actually put these two things together and have person B deliver the knowledge of person A? This was happening in gyms already, in the smarter gyms, and a lot of gyms that were operating really well, because it's almost impossible to grow a gym. You know, like a lot of the times what happens is there's an owner, there's somebody like you, Stuart, who's just like brilliant and happens to be good at all these things. And I am sure that you've identified over your years, you are rare, right? There are not many of you. And so how do you grow what you do? Building a system that's built for you, knowing that other humans don't exist that are like you. You get really frustrated hiring other trainers really quickly. And that's a problem. Not in that, you know, you can't find good people. It's just you have downplayed how remarkable you are and how hard you are to replace. That's why you're in the situation you're in as a business owner doing well. And so as a business owner, then you need to look at that and say, okay, I need to build a more intelligent system. What is starting to happen now globally is this is starting to happen on a much bigger scale, right? Services and particularly services, I mean, fitness, a lot of things are being productivized whereby an individual who is able to build a following and a reputation can now be the teacher for everybody, right? Education, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you go to your local community college and just get whoever your teacher is? Why would you go to your local yoga studio where, you know, Betty, the mother who's kind of the local granola in town happens to like yoga and did a yoga teacher training one time in Costa Rica and decided to open up a studio locally? Yeah. Why would you learn from her when all of a sudden now you can learn from Patrick, who is one of the top expert yoga instructors in the world, who's put together a team of 3 other top instructors in the world? What Betty should do is Betty should not actually teach yoga herself. Betty should open up a little yoga studio locally that fits 20 or 30 people and have a big screen and license material from Patrick and facilitate Patrick's teachings. Yeah. Because Betty is inspirational.
Yeah.
But Betty is not the information.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that I think is going to start happening a lot more. You know, F45 in Australia started to do that a little bit.
Yeah.
Where they basically recognized, okay, well, we can build centralized programs and have every F45 around the world doing the same workout at the same time. And all we need to do is get a little studio that's 1,500 square feet with the exact same material, with a few very good looking, very energetic people who all that they need to have is the most basic certification in the world. Like these are all weekend instructors that they look for.
Yeah.
Because they know that that's not important. All that matters is that these people tell you to keep your back straight.
Yeah.
Right. And they're there, motivating you because the programming is done centrally.
Yeah.
And everybody's learning. So there might be 800 of the exact same classes happening in 800 different locations.
Yeah.
With 800 individual people motivating on the ground floor to 20 to 30 people at a time.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen a lot more.
Yeah. You see more of that in the future.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
In the last 2 years, I think it's become really apparent that trainers and gyms in general, they aren't really seen as essential, the whole non-essential thing, and they're seen more as a leisurely kind of just messing about. You go and do a few reps in the cross trainer and go to this, go to that. Whereas that's kind of the view, the mainstream view of fitness. But the science kind of says otherwise. It says how integral, fitness, nutrition, all that combined is for optimal health. And we're all more health conscious at the minute. We're all thinking about staying alive, our health. And it's just, why do you think that it hasn't been taken as seriously, or people view it as leisure rather than healthcare? And yes, in a word, you could call it healthcare.
Yeah. Let me share a thought experiment that comes from Nicholas Nassim Taleb, author of Anti-Fragile, Black Swan. And the thought experiment is, imagine if September 10th, 2001, somebody were to go to the International Airline Committee and say there is an imminent threat. Tomorrow, somebody is going to hijack a whole bunch of planes and drive them into landmarks in the United States and murder a bunch of Americans and set off an insane downstream effect that is going to kill a bunch of people, ruin the economy, and a whole bunch of other things. What we need to do in order to fix it is we need to put bolted on doors in all of the cockpits, and we need to triple our security, and we need to do background checks on the people boarding the planes. This person would have averted what many describe as the biggest disaster in United States modern history. Whether that's actually true or not is a whole nother question. But this person would have averted that disaster.
Yeah.
But because nothing happened, if that, first of all, if he did that, he would have been laughed out of the office and fired from whatever his job was, right?
Yeah.
If he actually was listened to and the disaster was averted, then he would have gotten absolutely zero recognition, because they would have said, what was the big deal? Nothing happened.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, this person actually would have been the greatest hero in modern United States history, right?
Yeah.
If you buy in, I mean, a lot of people don't buy into the terrorism is a very interesting thing because it's like a tea in a tiny cup, or a bee in a China cup kind of store type thing. Like, if you actually look objectively at how many people were killed versus so many other things, it's actually not that big of a deal. But because it was so sensationalized, it's scary, right? So there's a whole bunch of stuff like that. But think about that thought experiment, right? Think about that compared to fitness. Meanwhile, the reactive people in 9/11, so September 11th, 2001, planes went into the World Trade Towers, a bunch of planes crashed in a bunch of other places. It was terrible. The reactive first responders, right, the firefighters, police officers, were rightfully, justifiably honored, right? They're heroes.
Yeah.
But they shouldn't have been needed. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that to me is such a great metaphor and thought experiment for what fitness is. Even Fauci, in the United States, very early on in COVID, told you exactly what was going to happen. He said, there is no way that I can win. This was like March 2020. He said straight up, there is no way that I can win here. He said, if we don't do enough, this will become catastrophic and millions of lives will be lost. If we do enough, people will say, what's the big deal? Why are you disrupting my life? Why are you taking away my freedoms? This is un-American. There's no way to win, right? Fitness falls prey of that. Fitness is preventative health. Fitness helps you avoid things that become catastrophic in the future, right? Helps you stave off disease, helps improve your mental health so that you don't ever run into these problems. As a result, it's not rewarded.
Yeah.
Because we reward our society, our psychology responds to people who fix things when they're already bad.
Yeah.
I'm not downplaying the role of reactive health practitioners, physiotherapists, doctors. I think that they're really important.
Yeah, but when you're
I also think that fitness professionals, health and fitness professionals, should be rewarded greater than reactive healthcare fitness professionals. Because if you look at, even from a purely financial standpoint, the cost to society, I mean, we're dealing with an overburdening of our healthcare systems. Why? Because people are so goddamn out of shape that they're getting sick and ill way more than they should. As a result, we need way more doctors, way more physiotherapists, way more drugs than we ever should need.
Yeah.
Right? That stuff is very important. But the reason why we need so much of that is because the preventative stuff isn't being done to avoid people from ever getting there. And I don't have a solution to that, man.
Yeah.
That's the thought experiment, right?
Yeah.
It's
That's
just,
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I think you're right. Like as you said about the doctors and nurses, the guys doing operations, whenever you're in a tight spot and your health has declined, the desperation of where you're at, it makes someone can save you. It makes it, you appreciate it more, I think. Whereas you might not, as you said, nothing ever happened. The guy that warned it's a great story.
And I know this.
Yeah.
And I know this, right? I know this so deep inside of me. And then, I mean, out of nowhere, right? This past year, my wife and I are both have been healthy, have been exercising our whole life, right? And like we should be the normal people, right? Because we're just active every day and eat well. But like we're the weirdos in our family because we're active and we eat well.
Yeah.
Like that's a whole nother conversation. Like, why are we the weird ones?
Yeah.
But we're the weird ones because we're healthy. Well, out of nowhere, no risk factors, no symptoms. My wife felt a lump in her throat about 6 months ago. She got it checked out, did more tests, did a biopsy. She has thyroid cancer. So thyroid cancer, we've now learned, has a 99.999% survival rate, right? Like if you're going to choose a cancer to get, papillary thyroid cancer is the one to get.
Yeah.
But holy shit, we're thankful to the medical system.
Yeah.
Because shit happens.
Yeah.
Right? You can't
stop.
avoid it.
Yeah. Genetics.
But the reality of it is, A, she's incredibly healthy. B, in large part because she's so healthy and active, she's very in tune with her body and she caught it really early.
Yeah.
So it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Right? But we're super thankful for the medical establishment.
Yeah.
Because they were fantastic.
Yeah.
In helping and supporting, and my wife's also pregnant. And so we have an at-risk obs-gyn who deals specifically with women who are pregnant and also have cancer and managing their treatment.
Yeah.
Because when do you get surgery to remove a cancerous tumor in your thyroid when you're pregnant with a baby?
Yeah.
And you need natural anesthesia. Like, these are big questions that should be answered by doctors, and shit happens, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, she'll be fine and the baby's fine and everything's great. But like, as you can imagine, it's been a hell of a 6 months.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is, like, I'm not downplaying the role of doctors and reactive medical professionals.
Absolutely
I'm
not.
just saying that basically nothing is as bad as it otherwise would be. if people just put a lot more care into preventative health. I mean, again, like, why are we the weird ones?
Yeah. The way I kind of thought about it is like, say whatever cancer is runs in your family and you've got a 9 out of 10 chance of getting it, breast cancer for example, why not do everything in your power, so we're eating all that stuff to reduce that 9 out of 10 risk down to a 6, down to a 5, down to whatever you can do. And that might be as close as you get. There might still be a risk, but we can only do what we can do, right? Yeah, Jonathan, it's over 30 minutes now. Are you okay to another couple of minutes, or do you want to wrap it up there?
No, we can go until what, 4 p.m. your time if you want.
Yeah, cool. I've got a few more things I'd like to pick your brain about. One of them is, how do you, we chatted about it a bit at the start, but how do you manage running a successful international company, traveling the world, wife, kid? How do you cope with all that? I mean, you got a lot going
on. How do I run the company?
How do you manage it?
Travel?
Yeah, and time and.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I'm actually have a beta group right now going through a time management and productivity course that I put together. It's the first new course I put together in 5 years. So it's a topic I'm really passionate in. Time management and productivity has nothing to do with apps and tools. It's a series of mental models and structures and rules that you build to govern yourself. There's a lot of really dumb bullshit distractions in your everyday life that just absolutely zap your energy, take your time and attention away from the people and the things that matter. There's a lot of decisions that are really frustrating. I'll give you one really obscure example. There's 24 different types of eggs that you can buy at the grocery store. Is that not the stupidest thing that you've ever heard?
It's crazy.
You can buy small, medium, large, brown or white, free range, omega-3 or organic. Why? And then any combination of that. Yeah. Do the math. I can't do the math, but my smart mathematician brother did the math for me. There's 24 different times if you do the math.
Yeah.
And why in the hell are there 24 different types of eggs that exist in our world that we have to decide between? It seems like such a small, obscure, insignificant decision.
Yeah.
But the amount of small, obscure, insignificant decisions that we make over the course of our day just completely zap and take our attention away. The reality of it is, if you're actually, and I can show you this in practice, there's actually only 3 to 5 important decisions most people ever need to make in a year. Most everything else is just very repetitive work that they're doing.
Yeah.
Or you can build a mental model and a lattice work or a rule or structure around that eliminates those decisions. As simple as, when I buy eggs, I buy brown free range. Done. Don't even look at the price. Don't even look at the sale. None of that shit matters in the great scheme of things. Are you going to save 20 cents on eggs one time if you think about the difference in the prices of the medium white versus brown white because the medium white is on sale? Yes, maybe. But think about how much energy you've just, like we live in an information economy. The stronger your will, the stronger your focus, the stronger your brain is, the more money you'll make. It's as simple as that, right? And so eliminating a lot of that stuff makes a massive difference. And I talk about this a lot. I mean, the black V-necks, like I wore the same shirt every single day.
Yes.
It's like, okay, well, that's part of my mental model of how I want to go about my day. For the rubric that I go by is, my goal in wearing clothing is to be comfortable and feel like I look good. Okay, that's my rule. If you like clothing, if you like fashion, totally different rule.
Yeah.
But that's my rule. And as a result, I think, okay, well, would wearing a different brand, color, logo type t-shirt affect my desired outcome? No. So I don't. And then that's a decision that I don't ever have to think about, right?
Yeah.
Now this is me, right? This is like, you might think that's ridiculous. I like different types of clothes. It's valuable to me. Totally cool, right? This is not about minimizing everything. This is about eliminating things. This is about identifying what really matters to you and putting the structures in place. And it's the same with work, right? How do you decide what to do? How do you decide not to do? I'm working a lot on my personal platform for the next year, right? It's basically all that I'm doing. And so it's starting with Instagram growth. Well, there's a lot of things that you could do if you want to grow your Instagram account. Everybody says you have to do reels, or you got to go on TikTok and point to words on the screen to stupid music and then grab that and put that on your Instagram as a reel because that's what people like and that's what the algorithm likes. Well, you know what? I don't give a shit about any of that. Because you know what I do better than anybody else in the world? I write content for personal trainers, for people who work in health and fitness.
Yeah.
And so my entire platform is built around my ability to write for health and fitness enthusiasts. It's not video, it's not audio, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that those things aren't good things to do. But when you start to identify these things and build these structures and build these frameworks, it starts to become very, very clear what you do and what you don't do.
Yeah.
And you really don't need to do very many things. You just need to be abundantly clear in the things you do and do them damn well.
Yeah.
That's the key. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah, and I love that. And I remember reading that in your Ignite the Fire book. Must be like 5 years ago or something that I read it, and it was saying, about having a uniform. I think it was an Eric Cressy tip or something, was saying like if you have a, maybe included in it, say, wearing like a collar, but like have a uniform. And my main reason for wearing a uniform is so I don't have to think at 6 a.m. what I'm gonna put on. And it's just bang on out the door. And it definitely helps taking those little decisions out as much as possible. And then you get married and then that goes out the window. But yeah, no, that's really great advice on productivity. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have in store in the coming months and years.
It's all really interesting. It's basically just, we're shutting down the Online Trainer Academy in the middle of next year, which is our big certification course. And that'll surprise a lot of people. And it's not because the information's outdated. It's not because the information's not important or not good. It's just that program was effectively built 8 years ago and continually improved upon and evolved. But the world has changed. And what health and fitness enthusiasts need is not that program anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so we're changing and we're instead going into smaller, more digestible programs, teaching things, going deep into things like time management and focus and productivity.
Yeah.
Right. Client care using new technologies.
Yeah. I remember reading one of your other tips was that you get up early and do like focus 30 minutes, no internet, no phone, and just do 30 minutes of solid writing first thing in the morning before everybody's up.
Not necessarily no internet, no phone. It's first thing in the morning. What I'll do is this is part of like the habit stuff is the most important thing, right? It's not necessarily no internet, no phone. Yeah. Actually, in fact, right now, the most important thing that I do when I wake up in that 30 minutes is I go and I post on Instagram and I engage in my comments.
Yeah.
Because right now, that's the most important thing for me to be doing.
Right.
And then I go to the gym and work out, and then I come back and my family's awake and, I have breakfast with them. But it's not necessarily writing, right? Some of the time it's writing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the time it's whatever the most important thing is. And the key though, Stuart, is setting it up the night before.
Right.
So that you can just flow into it in the morning. And so whatever I need to have with me in the morning, I'll lay out for me. For example, like I'll have the post that I'm going to publish ready to go on my phone, like that browser open, so that when I turn on my phone, it's open. My all of my workout gear, my headphones, my water bottle filled up with ice water, my keys. We drive a golf cart here because I'm living in Mexico, so my keys to the golf
Nice.
cart,
Nice.
and then shorts, t-shirts, socks are all laid out on the table, and underwear are all laid out on the table. And even so far as I lay out my shoes pointed to the door, unlaced, the night before I go to bed.
Love it.
What?
Attention to detail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't give yourself any reason to fall off.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I try to do a lot of those things myself. The only one I don't probably do is trying to get a plan of what I'm going to work on exactly. As soon as I wake up, first thing I'm going to do. But it's like that little checklist, getting 3 things and have it set so you can do it the next day. So you got a plan of attack and go for it. I was going to ask you about your traveling. Have you got a bucket list of countries you want to hit, or have you hit them already?
Places that I want to go to?
Yeah.
So, I mean, for anybody listening, the reason that Stuart asks is I've obviously traveled a lot, but the last 9 years I've spent 4 to 6 months out of the country every year. So that's ballpark over 1,300 days. It's probably a pretty low ball estimate. And to answer your question, I mean, I've lived in a lot of like amazing places. I've traveled a lot of amazing places. What I'm craving again is a lot of the adventure travel.
Yeah.
That took a back seat once we had my son, who's now 4.5 years old, once we had Calvin. And so just to give you an idea of like the difference, we'd go to Costa Rica. We went to Costa Rica and lived there for, 4 months. Just Allison and I with our friends, Molly and Casey. Molly runs a company called Girls Gone Strong. And we lived with them right in the same house.
Yeah.
And Allison and I would just get on an ATV and just bump up the coast for 4 days.
Yeah.
Right. And just stay in places on the side of the road, whatever, just like up the coast of Costa Rica. Well, the next time we went back to Costa Rica with Calvin, right, we were living in Costa Rica with Calvin. We're a family, we're a routine. And it's the same type of thing. We lived in Montenegro in the Balkans. And it was great. We did it with a family. We brought a nanny with us. And the nanny looked after Calvin, and Allison and I spent our anniversary. We took a bus down to Albania and hiked in the Albanian Alps.
Yeah.
For 4 days, staying in sheep herders' houses, doing mountain passes and stuff like that. I miss that stuff.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to get back to. And I don't even know where, to be honest.
Yeah.
It's that idea of just like going with the person you love or a person you care about and just going on adventures and flying by the seat of your pants, like old school backpacking, where I have no idea what the thing looks like. I have no idea what I'm going to encounter when I get there, but like, I know that I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
And that it forces this presentness that I really crave a lot of the time, that I think I'm missing, where it's so comfortable and we always strive for comfort and figuring out what everything's going to be and researching on our phone beforehand and making sure that we have a routine. Well, when you've got a backpack and you arrive in a new place where you don't speak a word of the language and you have no idea where you're going to stay that night, you're not focused on anything else. None of the other issues in the world, none of the other stresses in your life matter, because you got to figure out a way to navigate this foreign environment. And that's such a beautiful feeling to be able to do that. And that's what I miss. So it's not necessarily a specific location. It's more just that feeling and that experience that I'm looking forward to getting back to.
Yeah. Can I make a suggestion and say Ireland? But maybe I'm biased.
No way.
No, not Ireland.
I did. I was in Ireland. The University of College in Dublin brought me out to do a half day seminar.
Oh, very good. Yeah.
And so, yeah, man, I went, oh God, what's it called? Somebody gave me tickets to go see a show. What's the theater? It's like 75,000 people.
Crook Park, is it? Or
yeah. So I went to Crook Park. It was Pharrell Williams, Bob Marley and the Wailers, and then the Script.
Yeah. What a combo.
And so I went and I had never heard of the Script, but they were headlining this whole thing, right? Of course, because they're local. And yeah, man, that was a hell of a show. And I had the fish and chips and I did that whole thing. I think Europe probably won't happen again for a while. It's just far from North America. Like South and Central America is pretty freaking cool and way easier for us to navigate, and time zones and everything. And I'm getting more and more comfortable with Spanish. So
that makes sense.
A lot better that way.
Cool.
But, Europe again at one point, but I think not for a while.
Not in the immediate, yeah.
Yeah, like I get asked to speak to her all the time, and I just don't.
Yeah,
it's just
that's understandable.
It takes a lot to, pull me away from my family at these points. It's basically just a blind no. It just doesn't even matter.
Yeah,
what the audience is or what they're offering or anything like that. It just.
Yeah, that's understandable, and it's, especially in the current conditions of the world. John, thank you very much for your time. We've gone over a little bit, but we'll call it a day there. Thank you so much again. It's been great chatting to you. You're one of the most interesting humans I've ever talked to, I think. And whenever you write something on Instagram, whatever, I always read it because I know it's gonna be important and it's gonna make sense and it's gonna be useful. So thank you very much. See you in Ireland in 10 or 15 years time.
I'll be out there at one point. I got engaged in Scotland.
Did you?
I got engaged at the Killeen Castle in Scotland.
Very good.
On my 30th birthday, I did a day seminar in Edinburgh. We hopped in a car, my wife and I, and drove the north of Scotland. Did a castle tour, stayed in castles all the way up to Inverness, and then came back down to Northampton, and then did another day seminar in Bath in the UK. But yeah, my 30th birthday. My wife's Chinese, and so what's interesting is like I'm Eastern European Ashkenazi Jewish, and like I don't know if you know anything about Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews, but like basically at 30 years old, like we're peaked, like we're going downhill from here, right? But Chinese, like she's got like 50 years.
Yeah.
And so I figured I had to lock it down when my stock was the highest.
Yeah.
So my 30th birthday at the Killeen Castle, I proposed to Alison in Scotland, and then we drove to McDonald's for free Wi-Fi to call our parents to tell them the news.
Did it rain?
It was super romantic, 100% real.
Brilliant. Did it rain? Did it rain that day? Was it sun shining?
No, it was beautiful. You know what? It was the end of October. My birthday is October 25th, so it was the end of October. And the crazy thing was, it was a beautiful sunny day, and then we drove up to Inverness, which is beautiful in the north of Scotland, and it was a beautiful day at the end of October, which apparently never happens, and we just spent the day on the rocks on the water in the north of Scotland on like October 26th, which is. I mean, it was people had no idea what to even do with themselves. They're just like, what is this color in the sky? I've never seen this before. Yeah.
Shielding themselves from it. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We don't see it often.
I think this is blue. Blue? The sky's blue? We don't even know. Yeah.
I can't remember. It's been 3 months. Yeah. No, that's exactly what it's like. That's cool. Didn't know that. But yeah, we'll wrap it up there, John. I'm sure you got other calls to do today and stuff, and probably going to go surfing, or I don't know what you're going to get up to.
I'm actually going to post a video. Look at my Instagram stories. I'm going up to my friend's house. We went there for a date last night, a double date last night, and had dinner there. Check the video on my Instagram that I'm going to post. This place is freaking phenomenal.
Yeah, I will.
It's cool. It's a tent. There's no doors or anything. There's just like a tent tarp covering the whole thing. Yeah, man, check that out. It's going to be wild.
Sweet. I will do.
All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you very much. Take care. Enjoy your time. See you later. Bye.
Bye-bye.